about to start. Welcome to meeting Nelson. For those of you who don't know what Nelson is, the cricket term 1-1-1. You need to bat on one leg then, and then hope you don't get out. So let's hope nobody gets out today. Just a few little things before we get going. This is a non-smoking meeting, please. If you absolutely have to do something about that, outside here, please, during a break. This is also the emergency exit. Sliding doors open to your left and right. You can, if there's an emergency, we can all just gather outside there. May I please ask that everybody switch their cell phones to silent right now, and if possible, please just put them completely away or turn them upside down, because it might be interrupting the meeting. The next thing of importance, of course, is the bathrooms. So the ladies' bathrooms is as you go out this door towards the exit on your left, and the gentleman's bathroom is around the corner as you go out the door next to the kitchen. Please don't go into the kitchen though. It's not a good idea. And with that, I would like to call the President of Bryanston Breakfast Club.
Yourself, including why you might be here, but honestly, you can share anything you like. Would you like to? Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Anna Paula.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm Anna. I'm a first time here today. I come from Brazil. I've been living in the country for 15 years, which I love it. And I have a passion for public speaking. However, it's not my role today. I work for AVI, for Green Cross as a buying and designing. But I do have a lot of talks to my team and to the sales team and helping them and improving. So yeah, 3 months ago, I engaged with a coach as for personal life as much for career life. And on Tuesday night, he says to me, please, can you just Google Toastmasters and make a plan and go and experiment. So I'm here for a new experience. Lovely meeting everyone. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Hello everybody, my name is Maki Mupai. I am the Vice President of Education for the Randburg Toastmasters Club. The reason why I came here today is because I'm actually club hopping. I want to see what I can do to improve the environment at our club. And the one thing that is I've known about is that I can move my ears.
Oh.
Just the one.
Yeah.
Sorry, so you stuck in a thing.
Yeah. Sorry.
Please, welcome.
Hi everybody. My name's Fred. Sorry I'm late, by the way. Yeah, this is my first time here as well. I'm from Boksburg, East Rand. Zambian originally. I've also been here for like 20 years, and I attended my first Toastmasters last night actually, the one at KPMG, and I just thought it would help me in I'm a graphic designer, but I'm headed into my own ventures and business, and I thought it would help me public speaking wise, leadership wise, and I thought it would be a good idea to come check it out. So, thanks.
Thanks, Fred. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, morning everyone. I'm Nikki. I'm a first year student at Vega International. I want to work on my public speaking skills. Yeah. Well, not really the public speaking aspect, but more the preparation behind it. And I hope to have fun. And make new friends, yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kanyani Totwewa. Apologies for being late. I was a member of Sanambek Operational Club. I'm becoming a member of this club. And the reason why I'm here is because I'm going to become a member of this club.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sibo. I'm from Rivonia Toastmasters. And the reason why I'm here today, I thought I'd visit a different club and see what I can learn. And thank you so much for the warm welcome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Matthew.
Good morning everyone, my name is Matthew Ehrman. I'm from Madrid Toastmasters, and I was just saying to you, and this visit has been long overdue because I think the last time I was here was sometime last year. So yes, it's been a long time overdue. Thank you.
Good to see you. Haji.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks. Morning. I'm Haji, and from the south of Joburg actually. And I'm here with Cobus, and then actually you referred me to you guys, and then I just thought maybe I'd take it out and see how this works.
How are you? Right, nice to see you again. Would you like to say hi to everybody and share with us why you're here? You don't have to.
Aren't they not us? Yeah?
No, I haven't seen your face before. I'm from Brighton Toastmasters.
Hello, how?
Nice to see you. Clearly I don't.
My name is Kanyusu Masinga. This is my second visit. I think that's why.
Okay, cool.
This is my second visit, and I'm also here to learn and become a better speaker.
Welcome.
Thanks, buddy. We have amongst other awards, we have a special one called the Big Mug, and this is awarded to someone who we deem to have said or done something strange, funny, silly through the course of the meeting. So you have square slips of paper in front of you. Please use one to make notes about Big Mug happenings, and we'll collect those later. Thank you.
Please don't put my name down. I apologize for leaving my cell phone on. It was off the table. I forgot about it.
that one now we know.
Okay.
Sorry, how do you spell your name?
I know.
Okay. All right, we have one person to acknowledge for an educational achievement today, and that is someone who has finished her CC10 and has now started her pathway, and at our last meeting she presented her icebreaker. So if we can acknowledge that, Mandy, thank you, well done. Oh, she's being bossy. Yeah, she says, stand up. I don't want you to see that thing. Thank you. Mandy, Madam VPE, are there any apologies and program changes, please?
Yes, there are. quite a few. Right, so registration, we had Johan assisting Hamza. Thank you very much, Johan. Our speakers, we have had Lynn unfortunately stepping down, but we've had Matthew coming in. So we have a change in order. The first speaker is Hugo, still evaluated by Tambu. Second speaker is Tambu, it's evaluated by Hugo. And Tambu is on speech 2, not speech 1. The third speaker is Harold, who will be evaluated by Matthew. And our fourth speaker is Matthew Herman, and Harold will be his evaluator. His speech is 6 to 8 minutes for the timekeeper, and his speech title is Sense of Community. We then have Harold running the evaluation session. Tanya cannot be here, and we have Lynn doing the all counter because Fortune cannot make the meeting. So we've had Fortune, Tanya S, and Abrina adding an apology. And that's all.
That's enough.
That's enough. Stop now.
So I can't wait to hear the 4 speeches. Thank you, Matthew, for being a last minute fellow. We appreciate that enormously. Let's get on with the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming our Toastmaster for the morning with a very intriguing theme, I'm Staying. I'm glad you did. Mandy Murray. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And welcome to our Nelson meeting. Thank you very much. I did notice I've been typing it yesterday, and I'm a numbers girl, so definitely love that this is meeting 111. Our theme for today is I'm Staying. I'm not sure if anybody has, or can I actually have a show of hands of how many people know the Facebook group that has started I'm Staying? Okay. So, for those who don't, it's quite interesting. It's a group on Facebook called I'm Staying, and the founder is called Jared Pitzer. He's a male. I think he's actually in Cape Town, and he started it 5 weeks ago. So on the 7th of September, he started this group. Today marks his 5th week, and as of last night when I checked, he was on 633,000 members. I think this morning it had jumped to 640. So he basically has 18,000 followers joining a day, and that beats 750 an hour. If the man was selling something, he would be extremely rich. He has given up his day job, which was in real estate, to actually manage this group. And he states that the reason he started this group is to make people feel good and to try and steer them away from plan B. So plan B would be the going gets tough and I'm out of here. We all have those moments in life when we want to run away. And so for him it was just about creating a group to say, some of us can't run away. Some of us don't have these options available to us. And so forget plan B, steer away from plan B, and let's stay. In the About section, and I would like the Sergeant at Arms Commission to read it verbatim off my cell phone, please. Thank you. Because I turned it over and put it away. So on Facebook, in the About Us section, it states, I'm Staying is dedicated to the South African men and women of all races, cultures, religions and creeds who remain loyal to South Africa. This group is to honor all those who still believe that we as a nation can turn things around. We focus on the people, beauty and positivity in South Africa and all the good vibes. To all those who choose to stay and work as one to save this beautiful country we call home. this group belongs to all willing to make a positive difference. And if you're on Instagram, it is #I'mStaying. So we shall hear more about I'm Staying. I would like to now take us through our roles for the day, our role players in our meeting. So our first role player would be our timekeeper, Stancy.
Okay, thank you, Madam Toastmaster. My role is not Toastmaster, but my role as timekeeper is to keep. No, thank you. I'm happy where I am.
You stay. In other words, you stay right there.
I'm staying right here. So my role this morning is to keep track of time for all the speakers. For example, with those doing prepared speeches on a 4 to 6 minutes. I'll show the green light at 4 minutes. Orange light at 5 and the red light at 6. And that's the point where the speaker needs to finish speaking and you'll have 30 seconds to finalize the speech. And then for table topics, it's 1 to 2 minutes. So it's 1, 1.5 and 2 minutes, red light. For the evaluators, it's 2 to 3 minutes. So it's 2 minutes green, 2.5 minutes yellow, amber, and 3 minutes red. And then I'll give the report when called upon to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Snazzy. Our next role player would be our grammarian, Anae. Take us through.
Hi there.
Hello.
My role today will be that of the word police. I will take note of all the good and the bad use of the English language, and I will report back on that after the meeting. One more role which I have is to choose the word of the day. I chose a really cool word. It's called rolling. This word means to move or act in a caresome, frolicsome manner, behave in a free, hearty or jovial way. This is a really cool word which originated in the 19th century and comes from the words romp and frolic. You can use it in this way, so I'm really helping you. It's an awesome word, such fun.
It is.
It is, especially where it originated from.
Wow. Romp and frolic. There you go. The ways you can use this is we spent one rollicking weekend in Hawaii running from one gorgeous beach to the next. The music was so merry and rollicking that within no time everyone was on their feet. We played a rollicking game of volleyball. So please go ahead and have lots of fun with this rollicksome word.
Our next role player is Lynn Logie as our archivist. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. As the R counter, I will listen out for and make a note of the use of unnecessary words. Are, like, and so.
And you know.
And you know. So, and I'll report on that later and towards the end of the meeting as a reminder of us to just avoid using those words. Thank you. Thank you. Our next role player will be our table topics master, Dino. Mind explaining your role, please?
Good morning, everybody. So my role today today is the Table Topic Master, and this session has got to do with practicing your impromptu speaking. So it's going to be a little bit different today. We're going to be pretty much having a debate. We'll have two teams for and against a specific topic, and it is going to be a rollicking event. So during the break I am going to be selecting 6 people to take part in this. I think that'll be enough time. We may have to do 2 topics depending on the time, how it works out. But yeah, please, I'll be approaching people in the break to take part. Cool, good luck.
Thank you very much. Our evaluation chair for the meeting is Harold. Harold, can you please do an impromptu on what your role shall be? Well, I just got flung at you.
You are in a rollicking mood.
I'm going to move away from it now, actually.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's evaluation session for the chairman is quite easy because I'll just be introducing the evaluators. But you will see on the program that speakers and evaluators have been paired. So a speaker and evaluator will meet at the break and talk about their speeches and then report back to the group on what they found. So that is one way of doing it in our club that not many clubs do. And the idea is to do that individual evaluation before you tell the group what you thought of the speech. And we found as a club that it works quite well, so we do that from time to time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you to both Hamza and Johan for helping us with our registration. And thank you to Kobus, who is our Sergeant at Arms, for this meeting. Any requirements that you have or complaints, that department is open. So let's get back to I'm staying in South Africa. The kind of stories that trend on this Facebook are very inspirational stories. So there are some stories where somebody was stabbed and they've recovered and they're choosing to stay in South Africa instead of running because they were stabbed. But they're using that story as an inspiration for people to say, even though I've encountered these things in South Africa, and even though this happened, I'm looking at it as though it happened, and it did. It happened in a time where life was different, where our situation was different. And they're looking at embracing a new South Africa of what we all are trying to embrace, so that there is no race, there is no politics, there's no separation. We are just all one, and that happened in a time when we weren't all one. But that person is choosing not to hold that against anybody or hold that against the country. They are looking at the future and they are looking at embracing that. So without further ado, I am going to look at our prepared speaking list. And as it's been changed, our first speaker is Hugo. Hello, welcome. Koliswa, do you want to join our meeting? Please, come and have a seat before we start. Thanks. Yes, we will get there. So, Tambo, you will be evaluating Hugo's speech. As the evaluator, will you please give us the project requirements?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
The purpose of Hugo's project is to introduce himself to the club and learn the basic structure of a public speech, which I think he already knows, but as a person who's new to our club, we'd love to hear more about him. Good luck, Hugo.
So when I asked Hugo how I could introduce him, he said, outside of me being a dashing young man. So on that account, we have got a dashing young man who is a loner and a staunch Liverpool supporter.
He's a reader and a poet. And if you can all wait for the next 46 minutes, we will soon know the rest. Please help me welcome Hugo with his speech 45 and counting. Hugo.
Madam Toastmaster, Toastmasters, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. The earliest indication that he would light up the world was the day on which he was born. The month of April 1974 was firmly embedded in the middle of the rainy season. But Tuesday, April 23rd was a day like no other. The sun shone, the birds chirped, and the butterflies fluttered in the breeze, as if Mother Nature had acceded to this apparent April mystery. Ward 6 of Mfakosi Maternity Hospital had been without activity all morning until clock struck 6. There were 2 spankings of a baby's bottom and a piercing cry. The suspicions that had lingered for the last 9 months held true. At 6 pounds and 5 ounces, Ronald Ribatika had entered the fray of life. 33 weeks earlier, an ecstatic Rosalind had decided that her firstborn son would be called Ronald, for like his name, he'd be a mighty counselor. But alas, his father Rodwell was more inclined to bright of mind or spirit, commonly known as Hugo. As fate would have it, a few weeks after the youngster was born, his grandfather would succumb to illness. And with that, Pasipanojda was thrown into the naming equation, for the earth had taken away the 64-year-old grandparent before it had the opportunity to cradle his 6th grandson in his arms. At 5.5 years of age, the Ribatikas decided to give up the dusty streets of township life for the leafier suburbs of Harare, and with that, Hugo's first encounter with the English language. His sister Jess and he were born 2 years apart, and would find great novelty in speaking to all the white people that would walk up and down 79th Avenue. Their greeting, the perfect rendition of the Queen's language as they knew it. Finson, finson, finson. Don't ask me what that means, because I don't have Hugo soon found companionship in age mates, Adrian and Garrett, who lived a couple of houses from him. The ensuing multiracial friendship is exactly what Hugo needed to overcome the language barrier. The earliest indication that he had indeed overcome the obstacle was the frequency with which he was asked to read at assembly, recite prose, or narrate at the annual nativity play at Havenbury School. Even Mrs. Butler, the old white lady who lived across the street, would often remark to Mrs. Ribatika about how well her son spoke. When he wasn't speaking, he was shouting on the field of play. Cricket, soccer, tennis were his first loves. And as a 10-year-old, not really knowing right from wrong, he chose to play in a false football match instead of taking mandatory bed rest. A week later, when he returned, his class was pretty bare, as all his classmates were still recovering from the chicken pox that he'd so unwittingly passed on that fateful Monday the week before. As time often does, it whizzed by ever so quickly, and the teenager was nearing the end of high school. They taught him well at St. John's, and he blossomed. School prefect, debate captain, public speaking president, and football captain. We shan't go into the results of the hugest mourning that his team suffered in all the history of high school football. 30 years on, and he's still recovering. What will Hugo do with his life? Is a song that rumbled on in the Ribetika household for many a day. His mom's suggestion to go into banking came out tops. Hello, Barclays Bank. He hit the ground running, making friends and stopping frauds between cups of coffee in the bank's back office. Impetuous, as most adolescents are, he soon found the mundane nature of banking boring. A couple of years later, he'd been whisked away by one of the bank's esteemed clients, and he found himself the 21-year-old administrator of a large packaging concern. He enjoyed it for a moment, and the Rolling Stone continued to gather little moss as he went from job to job. 10 to be exact, in a space of 11 years. He did learn a thing or two in that time. Advertising, marketing, sports management. An MBA is next on the agenda, or somewhere on it. In years gone by, he worked for Zimbabwe's public broadcaster. He ran the country's largest cricket franchise. He started a foundation for young people. He met a girl, fell in love, got married. 2 kids later, she left him. He misses them every day. Across the Limpopo he travelled to seek his fortune and make a fresh start. Possibly in front of the camera, but certainly an opportunity to make friends like these. He's 45 and still counting.
To all stand as it was an icebreaker, and for next to go on his icebreaker. Thank you, everybody. This club always tries to do that when we can remember it. So well done, Hugo. We certainly got to know you better. How you managed to do that in 4 to 6 minutes was absolutely amazing, and we look forward to the end counting. Our next speaker is Tambu Gomo, and she will be evaluated, her speech will be evaluated by Hugo. Hugo, can you please read out her speech requirements?
Good morning once again, everyone. Good morning at Tambu. Tambu's purpose statement is for the member to practice the skills are needed to connect with an unfamiliar audience. Seems simple. Tambu, good luck.
When I asked Tambu for an introduction, Tambu decided to leave this up to a Florence Lütge's personality plus assessment. The assessment came out on Tambu's personality, the depth to see into the heart and soul of life, the artistic nature to appreciate the beauty of the world, the talent to create a masterpiece where nothing existed before, the ability to analyze and arrive at the proper solution, the eye for detail while others do shoddy work, the aim to finish what she starts, the pledge, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And the desire to do all things decently and in order. But then again, that's Florence's opinion and is yet to be proven. Please help me welcome Tambu. Tambu with her speech title, It's Not a Box. It's Not a Box, Tambu.
Fellow Toastmasters, visitors, guests. 15 years ago, I was sitting at my desk at the Japanese consulate, feeling boxed in that conservative environment. I received a call. It was a job offer from a client that I was moonlighting for as a translator. A few days later, I would find myself in her bustling office in an informal interview. She asked me, "Do you know what research is?" My answer was, "To be honest, I don't have a clue. But would you mind talking me through it?" A month later, I found myself sitting at my new desk as a researcher, learning a new profession from scratch. I learned then that my career was not a box. What I didn't know was that my new career was going to displace me from yet another box that I had become acquainted with. A box I had labeled as who I am and what I'm capable of. Being the person that I am, I take every personality test that comes my way. Myers-Briggs, DISC, the Enneagram, you name it. You might be familiar with some of them. But today, I'm going to use Florence Littau's Personality Plus assessment to contextualize for you my growth in the research world. When I first started my research journey, Florence Littau would have classified me as a melancholy. Don't worry, that's just a fancy word for deep, thoughtful, analytical perfectionist, introvert, believe it or not. That would not have been a misdiagnosis. That is the box I was born in and raised in. I even lined that box up with a comfortable duvet that fit perfectly from corner to corner, with a pillow of precise proportions. That was my box for life. It got a little bit messy the first time I ran a full research project independently from start to finish. Because you see, the beginning of the project required a little bit of choleric from me. Now, choleric is bossy, decisive, goal-oriented. And you will know that the beginning of a research project is when you get a brief. But often this brief is in the form of a scribble on a serviette or a comment passed in the corridor. And you have to find out what the actual objectives are. I had to pluck up the courage to say, I'm going to need more from you. Listen. This is no time to fear asking questions. In fact, this is the time for you to possibly even challenge those objectives. Because as you know, cholerics are always right. Fortunately, the next phase of running a project allows me to sink back into my box of comfort. This is where I get to excel as a melancholy. And I excel when I need to design a tight questionnaire. It's a list of questions after all. I excel and I feel like I'm in heaven when I have to put together a timeline that says exactly who is going to do what and when, preferably in table format. I even get to choose who we speak to, who we interview, right down to the products they use and their age and their gender. That's short-lived. Just as I'm getting comfortable in my box again, I have to stick my chubby little legs out and stretch to become a sanguine. A sanguine is a people person. A sanguine loves people. And I have to take this avatar on. Someone who is popular, frolicking, bubbly, rollicking sanguine. This I need need in order to form relationships with all the departments that I'm going to be working with. The data processing department, the interviewers, the clients. I mean, so exciting as a Sanguine. Thankfully that's short-lived, but unfortunately it takes me to my weakest point where I need to be a phlegmatic. I have very little phlegmatic in me. Now a phlegmatic is peaceful, agreeable. I can see you nodding and saying that's definitely not you. And uses minimal energy for everything. But this is the Zen mode, where you need to manage a project, where you need to keep everything and everyone in balance. That passes, and I come back to my lane as a melancholy. It's time to analyze. You need to be a thinker to generate deep insights, and this is where I flourish. But it's game time now. It's the grand finale. It's time to present results to the client. And now I have to do all four at once. I have to be the entertaining Sanguine. I have to be the fact-based melancholy. I have to be the non-confrontational phlegmatic. And I also have to be the visionary choleric. And then when it ends, I get to be me again. I get to be in my box again. But wait, now I know that this is not a box. It's only the starting point. It doesn't hem me in, and it doesn't have to hem you into. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tambu, and well done. Certainly not a box, as we can see. You've certainly got yourself out any part of that label. Our third speaker for the morning is Harold Robinson, and his speech will be evaluated by Matthew Herman. Matthew, can you please read out the objectives for Harold's speech?
Sitting with the Toastmaster. Harold is doing a project from Pathway series, but he didn't bring his evaluation this morning, but there's a project that's similar in the Competent Communicator Manual. And this morning Harold's going to be working on vocal variety. And the objectives is to use voice, volume, pitch, rate, and quality to reflect and add meaning and interest to your message, use pauses to enhance your message, and use vocal variety smoothly and naturally. And then Harold's time is 5 to 7 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I asked Harold how he would like me to introduce him, and he said, apart from being a dashing young man as well. He then gave me free rein to say whatever I wanted. Very bad mistake. However, even though I am in a rollicking mood today, everybody who knows Harold, all those who don't, you can just have a look at him. And please can we have one word that you would describe Harold by? I'm happy to start. I would say helpful. Kobus? One word to describe Harold. Anything? Naughty. Fabulous. If you want to pass, you can pass. You can say something bold. Yes, you can just have a look. You know, stripy shirt, whatever. Bold.
I just want to know if you said bold.
Okay.
Helpful.
Helpful. Matthew?
It's been a long time since I've been here, so...
Pass. Okay, you can pass. Thomas?
Funny.
Pass.
Very organized.
Pass.
Dashing young man.
Welcoming.
Well then, a Sanguine.
Okay.
I'd say it's warm, happy,
Peaceful.
I said my two.
Say them again.
Sense of humor. Not gonna lie. It was very rollicky when he came to introduce himself.
You were so good the changes there, Anna. Thank you very much for participating. Please help me to welcome Harold to the front with his speech title, Have I Missed the Train?
Last Saturday, the 5th of October, was World Teachers' Day. And I read in Eyewitness News, South African teachers have little to celebrate on World Teachers' Day. Apparently the South African Democratic Teachers Union, or SATU as they know, say that teachers are underpaid, overworked, they work in unsafe conditions, and they are not appreciated. Sadly, their pupils have even less to celebrate. I'm Toastmaster, ladies and gentlemen. That same article lamented about the fact that pupils in South Africa read and work out complexity worse than their counterparts in other countries. Apparently our president is introducing programs to improve the education system. And, but wait, that's not all, to prepare them for the fourth industrial revolution. Unfortunately, there's a lot more work to be done. And one of the things we need to do is to debunk some of the beliefs that we have about education presently. And I'd like to talk about three of them. The first one is the belief that government needs to run a compulsory education system. The second one is the belief that everybody takes 12 years to get to matric. And the third one is the belief that the teacher knows everything. And these three beliefs actually undermine our system. Let me talk about the first one. When government says education is compulsory, they're obliged to provide it. So what do we end up with? People who don't want to go to a school, with teachers who didn't want them there in the first place. Is it any wonder that we have problems in our schools at the moment? What, in the last week, 3 stabbings in schools by pupils. When you look at the education department budget and the number of pupils, they spend 20,000 rand per pupil per year. Can you imagine how different it would be if they said to you as a parent, I have 20,000 rand to spend on your child at school. To whom shall I give this money to educate your child? Think of how schools would start improving to get pupils in. When parents have actually got a choice of where to send their children. Do we have a choice at the moment? Send them to the nearest school. Do we have a choice of teacher? No. A rather tenuous situation. Let's look at the second one. We know in Toastmasters, for example, not everybody reaches the different milestones at the same time. We know from adult studies that people take different lengths of time to get to different milestones. Some people it's because they're brighter, some learn differently. But why do we insist that people, no matter how bright they are or how slow they are, they must all get to matric in the same stages? What's the difference whether you get there in 7 years or 14 years? I mean, is the objective matric or is it to prepare you for the future? And where does this matric come from anyway? Who decided matric? Now if you could choose the qualification that you wanted, and people could provide a qualification, it would help people as well. Because we're not all after the same thing. It's already been shown that matric doesn't serve most of the professions that you do afterwards. And let's look at a third one, assuming that a teacher knows everything. Some of you may have been lucky enough, like me, to have had that one teacher who inspired you, who helped you grow. There's not many of them. In fact, there's so few of them that we have to write stories or watch movies about them. And people like John Keating in Dead Poets Society comes to mind. Or Mark Thackeray in To Sir with Love. Or Jean Brodie in The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. Or the most famous of them all, Charles Edward Chipping, also known as Mr. Chips. Goodbye, Mr. Chips. In fact, he became so famous that at school, if you were up to something that you shouldn't be, and you had a standby, the teacher would be coming, and they would say, Chips, Chips. It's a pity that there are so few teachers who inspire you. But you know what those teachers have in common? They don't believe that they know everything. They believe that their pupils know more than them, almost. Now just think of the difference if you assume that your teacher doesn't know everything. Perhaps your pupil will take more responsibility for their own education. Perhaps parents will get more involved in their education. Because at the moment, parents are just leaving it to the teacher to try and do everything. So that's three assumptions that we need to debunk. So what can we do? While you have your children at school, perhaps you could get more involved with what's happening at the school. Because at the moment, a lot of parents just leave the school, just let it carry on. We could also get more involved in organizations that are trying to change schools. Because most of us stand away from education. But more than that, we can get teachers to change it as well. And the reason for that is when our children are finished, we can step away from the school. But that teacher has got his career invested in that school. He's there for life. And he needs to be part of the change. So we all need to tell them, come on, Mr. Chips.
Thank you, Harold. Well done. I love learning about where sayings come from. So, chips, I love that. Thank you, Harold, and well done on your speech. Our next speaker is Matthew. Matthew comes from Midrand Toastmasters, and he is racing through his communication manual. Please, can our evaluator Harold read the project of Matthew's speech?
Matthew's speech will be from the Advanced Communication Series, Public Relations, and it's the assignment called the Media Speech, which is a speech to be done on media, basically on television. And he needs to do a project speech, and it needs to be a speech to persuade a general television audience. And I'll be looking at how he gives the speech and thinking about how it will appear on TV. Matthew, the good news is we will be filming you, so you'll be able to see it on TV afterwards as well.
Thank you, Harold. So, Matthew is racing through, so he can start and very eagerly wants to start his pathways. Matthew has embraced our I'm staying and rollicking theme for the day, as he was on standby waiting to see if he could present his speech to us. So please help me welcome our third dashing man for the morning, Matthew, with his speech titled Sense of Community. Matthew.
Apologies everyone, before I get started, can I please ask someone to take a video of me? There's a
How
lovely
much you
audience
get paid?
member. Thank you.
You want to sit in the middle, very close, or?
Can you have a handle like that if you want, Jack?
You don't like that camera?
No, just because I upload videos to my laptop at home, so. My fellow viewers, welcome to this episode of Forgotten Chronicles, a weekly show where we unpack topics that receive less discussion than they should. This morning's topic is social to its core. It's a commentary on the very fabric that holds us together, the ties that bind us and help us prosper. This morning's episode is for anyone, whether you're a mother, father, sister, brother, or lover. This morning we will be discussing the idea of community. Jumping straight into this episode, we first need to define what is a community. For most people, a community is a group of people who live in the same location. Another definition of a community is it's a group of people with similar interests, values, beliefs, or ideas. However, this morning we won't be discussing community in its simple definition, but we will be discussing what it means to have a sense of community. Ladies and gents, that brings us up the question, why is a sense of community important and not just a community itself? Well, we all live in communities. Your neighborhood's a community. Your suburb is a community. The apartment block you live in is a community. However, very few of us can actually say we feel a sense of community. A sense of community to where we live, and more importantly, to the people we live with. We all know that incredible feeling when you step into a room after time away and people come up to you and say, "Wow, where have you been? It's lovely to have you back. How have you been?" That's what a sense of community feels like. So my fellow viewers, now that we've discussed what a community is and what a sense of community is, what problems can arise when we lose our sense of community? Well, the very first problem that can arise is a lack of belonging. Whether you are introverted, Matangu, or you extroverted, we all want to feel like we belong. Belonging is difficult to put into words, but it's something deeply felt within all of us. We all know that incredible high we feel when we belong, and that crushing low we feel when we don't belong. Communities provide us with that sense of belonging. To my fellow Toastmasters, when you step into your home club, you feel like you belong. When you step over the threshold into another club meeting, there's a deeply felt sense of shared experience between you and your fellow club members. Belonging is something we all need, because without it, we cannot thrive. A second problem that can arise when we lose our sense of community is selfishness can become commonplace. Truly remarkable communities are built on selflessness and not selfishness. And it's easy to see why. There's no way a community could survive if everyone in it was selfish. If everyone was willing to put their needs ahead of the group. If everyone was willing to undermine the person next to them to get ahead. A dark world truly beckons if selfishness becomes commonplace. Now my viewers, I'm not saying that's the state of our